Stella was juggling her busy work life and married life with her husband. However, one day her husband began to criticize Stella's behavior and demanded a divorce for her faults. Her husband even made an absurd demand that she had no recollection of, which confused Stella. When she found out everything, she decided to take full revenge. Pay child support? Are you going to abandon your child? Her husband cursed at her. 5 days later, her husband returned home with a changed look. I divorced the worst husband ever, but his life after the divorce is so terrible that I can't stop laughing. I might be a terrible person too, but I want my ex-husband to fall even deeper. Stella's scary. I feel like I can be as inhumane as I want to be towards my ex-husband. And if I think about what my ex-husband did to me, this isn't enough for me. I'm thinking of pushing him even harder from now on. To be hated that much, he must have done something pretty bad. This is a highly anticipated disaster. Stella expresses deep resentment and anger towards her divorced ex-husband. What is married life like with an ex-husband who is the target of intense anger? First of all, let's introduce ourselves briefly. My husband and I met when I was 25 years old through a senior at work. My husband is 2 years younger than me, and our personalities are quite opposite. I'm often told by people that I'm a reliable person who follows rules properly and doesn't have much flexibility. But my husband is the opposite. He's serious but doesn't care about the details. He makes careless mistakes frequently and has a slightly absent-minded feeling. We went out together several times, but he would make mistakes in meeting times and occasionally oversleep, so I thought we didn't match well with each other. But my husband has a charming personality too, so I could forgive those mistakes somehow. Apparently, it's the same in his relationships with friends, and at work he seems to be doing well in the world. The rest of the text describes how they started dating and got married, and how they managed their married life. The reason I started dating such a husband was that I was late the day I met him. The train I was on stopped at a station on the way, and I had to take another line and make a big detour. I ended up being 30 minutes late. My husband waited for me with a smile as usual, apologizing and arriving along the way. My husband said to me, who apologized many times, "It's okay, don't worry. I'm just glad to meet Stella." I was thrilled by my husband's casual words. From there, I gradually became attracted to his relaxed atmosphere that covered my too serious part, rather than an unreliable image. We started dating after his confession and dated smoothly, and got married about a year later. At that time, both my private life and work were going great since I had a job that I had always wanted since I was young. I studied hard to get the job I wanted, and was able to get my dream job. However, although there was always a sense of fulfillment every day, it was a hard job with long working hours. After marriage, my husband basically left work on time, but I continued to work overtime as usual. It was difficult to make time together, so we talked about considering having children after things settled down. Nevertheless, my husband never complained and always understood my work, even before we got married. He always said kind words and supported me. However, there was a little dissatisfaction with our life. We couldn't share housework even though we were both working. My husband wasn't someone who didn't do housework, but someone who couldn't do it at all. He had the motivation, but he was the type of person who increased his workload by helping out. We didn't notice it at all when we lived with our parents before we got married, but after we got married, we found out that he couldn't do housework at all, and was desperate because of his inability to do housework. The dishes he washed still had oil on them and were sticky, so the damage spread because he piled them up on other dishes. He only quickly washed the bathtub during bath cleaning, so he didn't care if there were water stains on the floor or mirror. Even though we did it together many times while teaching him how to do it many times, he returned to his own way of doing things every time he did it again. At first, my husband seemed apologetic about it, but gradually became more troublesome about it. Now when he comes home from work, he just plays with his smartphone without doing anything. He just waits for me to come home without doing anything. Every time I see him like that, I feel unfair and frustrated. However, since I also thought that my husband understood me and my work well, I decided that I would do housework properly. So even though it's hard every day with work and housework, I tried to spend time with my husband on weekdays after work, and made sure to spend time together on weekends while doing housework as much as possible. Around the end of the first year of marriage, my position rose and I became even busier. Until then, I had been coming home by 9 p.m. at the latest to spend time with my husband, but after my promotion, I often came home after 10 p.m. So I had to eat out more often, which I felt bad about. However, at first I was concerned about my health and prepared as much as possible in advance. But one day my husband said to me, "Stella, it's hard for you to prepare food in advance. You don't have to make dinner for me from now on. My company is short of staff and we will have to work overtime from now on." So we couldn't spend much time together as a couple on weekdays because we both had to work overtime. We tried to spend time together as much as possible on weekends and made sure to make time for each other. But at some point, my husband started working on holidays, which he hadn't done before. As a result of losing most of the time that was only available on holidays for the couple, the conversation with my husband decreased, and gradually our married life became awkward. Even when we were together on holidays, the conversation didn't continue somehow. I began to feel a sense of crisis in my relationship with my husband and thought about how I could repair it. As a result of thinking about it, I began to consider changing departments so that I could leave work on time as much as possible. When I consulted with my husband about this, he said, "Don't worry about me, it's been Stella's dream all along, right? Then don't give up on something like this, but we've been passing each other by lately, haven't we?" That's true, but haven't we helped each other all along? And I like Stella, who works hard very much, so don't worry about it, my husband encouraged me with a smile on his face when I looked down. I was happy to feel that he was supporting me, so even though I worked in the same department as before, I wanted to do my best for my husband who supported me. I managed to do housework perfectly more than ever in between busy times. My husband repeated his usual life without realizing or knowing about my change. Nevertheless, I felt that my husband was supporting me and didn't want to inconvenience him, so I thought that I should do more. So only I had a hard life with work and housework for about 3 years after getting married. Your husband's uselessness is starting to show. I know he can't do housework, but just playing with his smartphone and waiting is like a child. Stella thought that her relationship with her husband would gradually recover thanks to her husband's encouragement. However, one day her husband made an unexpected demand. "I sometimes think you could help with housework a little bit more." But at that time she thought it was her fault for being too focused on work and didn't have much dissatisfaction. But one day, "Hey, have you noticed that we hardly spend any time together lately? Isn't there no point in being married? What are we together for?" "I don't understand why Stella and I are married anymore," her husband suddenly appealed to her. What's going on all of a sudden?" "What do you mean?" Looking at me in surprise at my husband's words, he sighed loudly and looked a little foolish. "I've been thinking about this for a long time, but Stella only cares about work and doesn't care about the family at all. You always prioritize work and don't care about me, right?" What was all the talk until now? What happened to wanting me to continue working and supporting me? I was just wondering in my head and I couldn't understand my husband's words at all. Looking at me, who couldn't say anything for a while, my husband repeated a completely different theory than before. "Did you really take my words seriously? I've been patient too, but I'm at my limit. I'm getting older too and I want children, but it's impossible with Stella now." He blamed me while repeating it. I was aware that I was relying on my husband, but we had talked many times. I thought we had built a good relationship as a couple, so my husband's words were shocking. My head couldn't keep up, and I just listened to my husband repeating, "I've been patient, and I'm the victim," many times without saying anything. I was aware that I had made my husband patient, so I couldn't deny his words. "I'm really sorry I made you patient until you were so upset. Even now, I will propose a department change to take time as a couple." I apologized to my husband and made a proposal for the future, but my husband became even more unhappy. "It's too late to say that now. Stella, who only makes me patient, has run out of love," he said it while glaring at me, and it was a state where he didn't respond no matter what I said. No matter how many times we talked after that, my husband's determination did not change. My husband repeatedly said, "It's your fault." At first, I tried to talk somehow. However, gradually being pushed into a corner because of my guilt towards my husband. In the end, I was in a state of thoughtlessness, where I only heard my husband's abusive language. If you can't say anything back, you must be aware that you are guilty. Really, marrying Stella was a failure. If you want to work, don't get married. It's Stella's fault for the divorce, so pay the consolation money quickly and get out. My husband blamed me as he said it, signing the divorce papers, and paid the consolation money, and immediately after the divorce was finalized, he was kicked out of the house where he lived. Immediately after the divorce was finalized, I was just stunned by the sudden event. For a while, I was too shocked and lived like an empty shell. However, when I started living alone, housework that used to be difficult was not difficult at all. There was no need to feel sorry for anyone, even if I came home late, and it was more comfortable than I thought. So I tried hard to forget everything by devoting myself to my favorite work. When living a life focused on work alone, half a year passed since the divorce in no time. When my feelings had settled down considerably, and I could enjoy living alone. Hey, what do you mean that child support hasn't been transferred? What do you think of our child? You're really cold. I suddenly received a mysterious message from my ex-husband. Although there had been no contact at all until now, I was confused by the message because one of the reasons for divorce was that we couldn't have children. When we saw the content of the message, moreover, somehow it felt different from my ex-husband's usual writing style and felt uncomfortable. Although she hesitated whether to reply or not, I don't understand what you mean. We don't have children together. When she replied calmly like this, she immediately received another surprising message from her ex-husband. Don't just make excuses like that. Anyway, pay quickly. As for child support, from now on transfer 50,000 yen every month. I was disgusted with the message from an ex-husband who didn't make sense at all, and felt uncomfortable because it seemed different from his usual writing style. The content of the article is also content. So I thoroughly investigated it. As expected, the investigation results were blackened. It seems that my ex-husband had been leading a double life for 3 years and had a 2-year-old daughter with his partner, whom he had been dating since his student days. The period when my ex-husband started saying that he had overtime and said, "You don't have to cook dinner," coincided perfectly with the period of his double life. Looking back, it was suspicious that overtime, which had never happened before, suddenly increased. I was amazed at myself for not noticing that I was being cheated on, and I obediently paid the consolation money, as my ex-husband, who had betrayed me, said. And I was really angry at my own stupidity for blaming myself all the time. From the moment I learned about my ex-husband's true nature, I vowed to take revenge no matter what. My ex-husband must have been planning it for a long time. He's really the worst. He's asking for child support even though they don't have children. He's really crazy. Stella was furious when she received a mysterious message from her ex-husband and learned about his hidden side. Finally, she confronted her ex-husband directly and cornered him thoroughly. As a result, Stella reported an unexpected development that occurred 1 month later. Hello everyone, I'm here to report that there has been progress in punishing my ex-husband. Oh, we've been waiting. After the investigation report came out, I immediately found evidence and asked a lawyer to handle it. I was worried about how much pain I would be put through, because there was a gap after the divorce, but I was relieved when the lawyer gave me a clean bill of health. Then, I decided to call my ex-husband and confront him directly. My ex-husband seemed reluctant when we contacted each other and appeared at the meeting place with an unhappy face. But when the person sitting next to me introduced himself as a lawyer, "Hey, what are you trying to do by bringing a lawyer now? I have no intention of starting over with you. Are you trying to get the consolation money back?" My ex-husband's face changed slightly, and he started to panic. "There's no way we're starting over. I just have something to ask you. There's something you didn't say when we got divorced, right?" "What?" "There's no way that's true. Are you going to make up another excuse this time? I know everything. So just talk honestly," my ex-husband retorted in an irritated tone while glaring at me with cold eyes. After that, he just kept making excuses. "Do you think you can get the consolation money back by nitpicking? Did you go crazy from the shock of getting divorced? Stop making excuses and grow up." He laughed foolishly, as if he were making fun of me. Despite being disgusted with his attitude, I told him that I know everything and calmly slapped the report in front of my ex-husband. My ex-husband seemed to be taken aback by the report because he didn't expect there to be any evidence. He couldn't say anything in return, so he fell silent. You understand what it means when a lawyer is present, right? Hurry up and talk, I told him calmly, and he reluctantly began speaking as if he had given up. It turns out that he had been dating his affair partner on and off since his student days until the year he married me. However, 3 years ago, he suddenly contacted her again. My ex-husband had a lot of time alone at night due to my overtime work, so he met his affair partner without thinking too deeply. Afterwards, she unexpectedly became pregnant. My ex-husband tried to persuade her to have an abortion in a hurry, but his affair partner went ahead with the pregnancy against his wishes. It seems that for a while, my ex-husband was secretly supporting her with his income, but he couldn't stand the frugal lifestyle anymore. He was pushed by his affair partner, who said, "I'm having your child. Why am I still just your affair partner? If you don't divorce soon, I'll tell your wife everything." It seems that my ex-husband was being pressured by his affair partner to divorce me every time. So he decided to divorce me to make me look like the bad one, for focusing on work and to gain an advantage for himself. He spoke about having a child together without any remorse, and I was truly disgusted by his calmness. Moreover, after the conversation ended, he said, "That's all. Why are you bringing it up now? It's true that you're always focused on work and that you're at fault. Even if you get divorced, it won't make a difference. Maybe you've been secretly investigating like this all along. You're really a gloomy woman," he shouted at me while mocking me. I couldn't help but be angry at his attitude and responded strongly, which led to an argument for a while. "What are you talking about? You're the one who brought up unnecessary things in the first place. You asked me to pay child support, even though we don't have children together. What? You're the one who brought this upon yourself. Are you crazy? Wait a minute. There's no way I would say something like that myself." My ex-husband and I were talking past each other, and I sighed as I showed him the message screen. My ex-husband turned pale when he saw it and hurriedly checked his own smartphone. However, there was no record of our conversation on his smartphone. Just to be sure, my lawyer and I checked it together, and it turned out that my conversation with him had been hidden. My ex-husband sat there in a daze. "I know it's not you, but there are only a limited number of people who could have done this, right? You already know who did it. Don't you?" I said with a sigh mixed in my voice, and my ex-husband turned bright red. Then, my ex-husband, who was furious, called out his affair partner. My ex-husband is the worst. But is this the pattern where the affair partner is crazy? I'm excited about the appearance of the affair partner at last. What was revealed was not only my husband's true nature, but also the incomprehensible actions of his affair partner. In the confrontation with his affair partner, an unbelievable truth was exposed. The conversation became even more chaotic, and my ex-husband did something outrageous. After waiting silently for a while, the affair partner, who said she had left her child at her parents' house, appeared. "Hey, what's with this sudden call?" "It's annoying." A woman wearing flashy makeup and brand-name clothes came with an annoyed look on her face. My ex-husband got furious and shouted at his affair partner, "What are you doing? Why did you do something unnecessary? We were doing so well together until now, but everything has been ruined because of you." The affair partner, who had been told to get divorced every time she approached him, got angry in return. "You found out already? What do you mean by unnecessary things? It's not like I'm the one at fault from the beginning. It's because you never earned enough money." "What are you talking about? Even though I've been supporting you financially, it's because of your selfishness that we ended up like this. I didn't think you were so broke. You always pretended to be rich, but it turns out that it was just because your wife was earning money." They started shouting at each other loudly, and I could only sigh as I watched their selfish behavior. While watching them silently, in the first place, since it's your child with my ex-husband, shouldn't we cooperate and support each other willingly? The affair partner looked down on me as she stared at me silently. "Why would I pay money when it's not even my child? So raising a child is about helping each other, right? I gave birth instead of you. You're single and don't have any children, so you can easily afford to pay me 50,000 yen a month. Besides, I bought a car on loan, so I need the money." She spoke to me with a grin while I replied calmly. Everyone present was stunned by the story of her cheating partner, who spoke proudly. However, she continued to talk as she pleased, and my patience was at its limit. You don't have to pay for someone else's child support. It's your own child, so you should take care of it yourself. Besides, child support is supposed to be for raising children, but what does it have to do with a car loan? My statement wasn't funny, so she started shouting at me. You always say such cold things. That's why your ex-husband left you. Since your ex-husband doesn't make any money, it's only natural that you should help him. Her cheating partner was getting heated up and speaking quickly. She was about to grab me, but the lawyer intervened. After that, the lawyer explained to her patiently while scolding her. Although her cheating partner had been upset and angry at first, the lawyer's scary face silenced her. Her ex-husband listened silently to her words without saying anything. I didn't think she was such a terrible person. I don't have the confidence to deal with her anymore. He said that he didn't have any confidence in dealing with her, and that he wanted to return to his happy life. While glancing at me, he was trying to gauge my reaction, but I ignored him. To be honest, she was already divorced, so she just wanted to get compensation, and she was tired of listening to the two of them talk. She wanted to leave the scene as soon as possible. So finally, I'll make sure to claim compensation from both of you, so be prepared. She said that, and left everything else to the lawyer. Hey, wait a minute, Stella. I can't live without you, after all. What? You've been complaining all this time. Why should I pay compensation? I ignored him and his cheating partner, who cried and shouted with angry expressions on their faces, and went home alone. Later on, the lawyer successfully claimed compensation from her cheating partner and ex-husband. Thanks to the lawyer, we were able to recover the compensation paid to my ex-husband. Child rearing is about helping each other in a different sense. It's too sad for a child to be raised by such a cheating partner. We were able to punish my ex-husband and his cheating partner, who were similar in nature, while Stella felt refreshed. My ex-husband and his cheating partner faced a life of despair. As for the cheating partner's child, they're probably okay. The cheating partner's parents said they would take responsibility for raising them. I talked to them once on the phone, and they were completely different from their daughter in terms of being sensible and responsible people. After that, the cheating partner had no way of paying a large amount of compensation and reluctantly went back home to ask for help from their parents. They are still under house arrest because they made their parents very angry. To pay me compensation, all of the cheating partner's belongings were sold off, and their parents rebuilt what was missing. All of their beloved brand name items were sold off, and all of their belongings became cheap ones. Now, they cry every day because they can't go outside and stay indoors. As for my ex-husband, he borrowed money because he couldn't pay compensation out of pocket. He pretended to work overtime but actually spent time at his cheating partner's house. There were times when he was actually asked by his company if he wanted to work overtime. However, he refused every time and went home on time every day before going over to his cheating partner's house. He made many mistakes in his work originally, so his boss's evaluation plummeted. After that, he was transferred to another department where he continued making mistakes, which led him to receive terrible evaluations again. He called me many times, crying, "Stella, please help me. I'm going to get fired like this. Please let me come back to you." I received news that there was an opportunity for promotion at another branch just when the lawyer came in, so I immediately agreed and moved there quickly. I knew about my ex-husband's situation and blocked all contact information after this incident. Finally, I could cut off everything related to my ex-husband and start fresh. There were many suspicious points, but I think I should have investigated properly even though I was confused after the divorce. Nevertheless, it was really good that I was able to take revenge on both of them. Now, I can focus on my favorite job with all my might, so even though I'm busy, every day is fulfilling. Both of them got what they deserved. I'm glad we were able to punish them safely. Stella succeeded in taking revenge on her ex-husband, who tried to make her a villain and hide the real reason for their divorce, and his selfish mistress. If you had a spouse like Stella's husband and ended up in trouble like this, what would you do? Please let us know in the comments. Thank you for watching this time. If infidelity is discovered after a divorce, compensation can be claimed from the other party within 3 years if there is evidence. So be careful about your actions.